So this is a little reference for the next activity, which is our image rater. So this is what it'll look like when it's kind of half done, I guess, because I haven't bothered with the fine detail of it, but the fundamentals underneath are fully working. So I've got all of these images displayed here. They're in a folder in my application. And if I click on any one of them, it displays the image. And I can rate it, which I don't seem to have bothered putting the numbers above. Currently this one is unrated. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I click submit, it is rated as 2. If I click 3 and submit, it gives me an average rating, rating this one as 0, etc., etc. That's the application. Let's have a quick look at the snippets that are going to be useful to you. Gone too far. I'll go back to there. So this is how I've set up my folder, my folders, I should say, for my application. So I made a folder called static. That's the kind of conventional name for things which don't change in your application. So if you've got your JavaScript files or your CSS, they go into the static. And in there I've put an images folder. I'm sure there's a million other ways to organize it, but that's a fairly standard way. And I've got two templates. I've only got index.html and rate.html. You've seen them both. Now, one thing that I did was, rather than hard code the file names, I looked up on Stack Overflow, as you do, and looked up how to go to a folder and list all the files in that folder. And this seems to work. This OS library lets you browse through a folder listing the file names in that folder. And what I do as I go through each one, I'm appending to this originally empty images list a new image object. So we're back to object-oriented programming. And an image object has got a few things. So obviously it's got the name of the file. We could actually put the file in there itself, but just not necessary right now. So the name of the file, a credit, all of mine are from the same place, so I've given them all the same credit, which is Savage Chickens Doug Savage. And also each image, of course, has got a ratings. I've got an empty array of ratings that starts, and then as I click submit each time, it adds a new rating to that ratings array. So you'd probably want to do pretty much the same thing. So yeah, that's that object-oriented side of things. Now, when I want to display each image, I'm using this URL4, which again is another import, and URL4, and because static it's kind of a magic word, a bit like templates is a magic word. You can say find the static place, and then it creates a file name within there with the images folder and the image.file name. Obviously I've passed an image to the Ginger folder at this point. And last thing is, I hadn't mentioned about the other part of the URL, about passing information backwards and forwards. So I'm just going to flick back to the page. Where's the page gone? Can't even see it here. Oh no, that's it. You'll notice at the top I've gone to the /rate, and then I've got question mark image name equals chicken multiple.jpg. So when we're passing data around between pages, often we use a form like this one. Sometimes we can pass the information here using question mark and then the variable name and then the value which we're passing. So in this case, I'm choosing to pass the name of the file. And of course, that's done because it's easy to build a URL which has got the rate. So I've got rate here and question mark image name equals, and then I happen to have the file name right there. So it's a pretty standard way to pass simple information around. So I'm only just saving you time now. I'm sure you could have looked all of that up on Stack Overflow, just like I did. But it should mean that the rest of it you can kind of get on with. So it's the key here is we're doing object oriented. We're going to have an image class. and we're going to have a list of image objects, and then we're going to be dealing with the ratings system through that image object, etc. Good luck. One last thing, I did find a bit of a pain when you got the file name and you want to refer to the image which has that file name. It's actually a bit of a pain because you can't just look it up. So I ended up writing a tiny little function which just looped through my images array, checking the file name that I had because it had been passed through the URL against the file name of each object in turn, and then returned the number and used that when I'm referring to it. If you're feeling like you want to learn an extra little new thing, I also did it again, but using a dictionary, which was way better. So I used a dictionary with the file name as the key and the image as the value, the image object as the value. And I'm happy to show or talk to anyone about that if they're interested in using a dictionary. Don't use dictionaries very much, but this is exactly the kind of a case where they work really nicely for doing a job like that. All right, so feel free to ask me about dictionaries in class and I'll show you some examples. In fact, I've got a little video, I think it's the one prior to this one, which kind of explains some basic dictionary stuff and might get you started.